China is encircling India through Bangladesh and is directly threatening Indian interests in Bay of Bengal and the Indian Ocean region. This is the assessment that we can draw based on the recent visit of Bangladesh's new Prime Minister Tarique Rahman to China. So, in this short video, we will break down the importance of this visit by Tariq Rahman to China. We'll understand what challenges are emerging for India as a result of the new deals and agreements that China and Bangladesh have signed. And more importantly, we need to learn why Bangladesh is such a critical neighbor for India. So, first, the context. Earlier this year, Bangladesh got a new government headed by the Bangladesh Nationalist Party, led by Tariq Rahman. This was the first election in Bangladesh after the protests of 2024 against Sheikh Hasina's regime. India had reached out to the BNP and specifically to Tariq Rahman to build bridges. Because in the past, when the BNP had been in power in 1991 and as well as in 2001, the BNP had been a pro Pakistan party, even aligned with radical forces promoting anti India activities by sheltering the Northeast insurgents. So India kept aside these reservations because, as you know, things in Bangladesh had taken a downturn since 2024 under the interim regime headed by Muhammad Yunus. India had faced a very difficult period. On one hand, religious minorities, specifically the Hindu community, was being targeted by radical fundamentalists. And the Muhammad Yunus government was barely doing anything to protect the minorities. And Muhammad Yunus was taking the country closer to Pakistan, China, Turkey, creating a serious strategic challenge for India. So India was hoping for a big change to happen post the elections. So in the run up to Bangladeshi elections, India had reached out to the BNP. And in fact, when its leader Khalida Zia passed away, the mother of Tariq Rahman, India's foreign minister Dr. Jaishankar visited Bangladesh to offer condolences. And India established contact with her son Tariq Rahman, who had come back from political exile from London to lead the party towards elections. So after Tariq Rahman swept the elections, India had sent out the right signals. In fact, India had even invited Tariq Rahman to visit India. Now, this is often a practice amongst our neighboring countries. After every election, after a new government is formed, the new leader is always invited to India, and they also ensure that they visit India first as a priority. Because, see, in diplomacy, symbolism is everything. The first visit by a new leader sends a symbolic message that they are prioritizing the relations with that particular nation. So, generally, neighbors from Nepal, Bhutan, Sri Lanka, Bangladesh, etc., whenever there is an election and a new government, the leaders often tend to visit India. But if they don't, it's a clear sign that there is a strategic shift going on in the relationship and something is not right. India, despite inviting Tariq Rahman, due to the friction which has developed, Tariq Rahman chose to visit Malaysia first, following which he reached China. Probably the visit to Malaysia was to take a sort of a middle ground so as not to anger India. Otherwise, probably the first visit probably would have been to Beijing itself. So after the visit to Malaysia, Tariq Rahman's visit to Beijing has been quite shocking and alarming for India, as we have noted some serious developments which could potentially mark a big setback for India's relations with Bangladesh. Now, the big question is, why is Bangladesh so important? See, please understand, Bangladesh shares a very long border with India, which is the longest land boundary for India, stretching to 4,096 kilometers. This border is highly porous, and we face a number of border security threats from organized crime, including drug trafficking, arms trafficking, pumping of fake Indian currency notes, to even rampant illegal migration. And more importantly, the shelter and safe havens that terrorist and insurgent groups that often enjoy in Bangladesh. Whenever we have had hostile governments, for example, when Bangladesh was still East Pakistan, Pakistan had used this territory to encourage and covertly support few Northeast insurgent groups, including the Nagas and the Mizo outfits. After India liberated Bangladesh and played a pivotal role in its independence, the relations had improved significantly thanks to the Awami League, which has always been a pro India party, and leaders like Sheikh Mujibur Rahman. Later, her daughter Sheikh Hasina, when she came to power in 1996, then again in 2009, and continued till 2024, India enjoyed a fantastic relationship. In fact, most of these security issues were effectively tackled by Sheikh Hasina post 2009, and she had decimated the terror network and the infrastructure that exists in Bangladesh that could support Northeast insurgents and anti India terrorist groups. Sheikh Hasina was that friend for India in the neighborhood who had protected India's interests and influence. So, with the ouster of Sheikh Hasina and the toppling of a regime, and Sheikh Hasina taking asylum in India, has lost that best friend. A reliable partner has been lost. So, in the past, we have had a bitter experience with BNP, and without the BNP, the other choices are equally bad. We have the radical Jamaat-e Islami and the new student led NCP, the National Citizens Party, both of which have taken a very hostile position against India, aligning firmly with Pakistan and anti India interests. The Jamaat has been aligning with radical forces that are involved in targeting religious minorities. Then NCP and its student leaders made very controversial statements in the run up to elections, calling upon Bangladesh and China to act in the northeast to threaten India along the northeastern stretch and along Siliguri corridor. Even Muhammad Yunus, who headed the interim regime, he said Bangladesh is the guardian of the Bay of Bengal and invited China to play a role potentially in the northeastern states. So, with all the other political factions and elements, we have seen this difficulty. Now, in Bangladesh, you always find this split. In the society, you find this split between the pro India nationalists, who all played a role in the liberation of Bangladesh. And on the other side, you have the radical fundamentalists, who are pro Pakistan, aligned with anti India forces. And that is why maintaining this relationship is very critical. When Sheikh Hasina was in power, Bangladesh used to be our largest trading partner in South Asia. Even now, the India Bangladesh relationship can be revived and it would still be one of the most important economic ties in the region. But because of the lack of cooperation and the pressing issues that are present, and some of the mistakes made by India as well, this relationship appears to be taking a big hit. So Tariq Rahman rejected the invite eventually. And instead of visiting India, first he toured Malaysia, and from there he has visited China, where these key agreements have been announced. Now, before we discuss the setbacks and the concerns and the threats, I have a very important announcement for UPSC aspirants. If you're preparing for 2027 attempt or beyond, and if you're looking for a structured guided program, then Unacademy is launching the Elevate batch from the 1st of July. This batch will give you access to the live and recorded lectures by our top educators, along with the study material, the test series, the practice tests, and one on one mentorship. Now, this is the perfect time to enroll because Unacademy is offering a triple treat benefit as part of Siksha Mahotsav. This subscription is available at the lowest price ever at just 16,999, and you also get double validity. That is, if you take a 6 month subscription, you get 6 month additional subscription free. The same for 9, 12, and 18 months. You also get CSE Assure guarantee, under which if you fail to clear the exam despite your best effort, then your next attempt is entirely on us. But of course, you'll have to fulfill some conditions. If you have attended a certain minimum number of classes, taken all the required tests, if you fulfill those criteria to show that you've put in the effort and still you couldn't clear the exam, then your next attempt is on us. So to avail the triple treat offer and subscribe at just 16,999, you have to check out the link provided in the description box below. I'm told the offer will end on the 30th of June, so please subscribe before that. And on the subscription page, you might see a different price. To avail the discount and the triple treat offer, you have to type in the code IAS English. With this, let's come back to our discussion. Now, even though India had reached out to Tariq Rahman to repair the relationship and extended a hand of friendship, why is there friction between the two? Why did Tariq Rahman chose to visit China instead of India? That is what first we need to examine. See, one big friction point is Sheikh Hasina being granted asylum in India. In Bangladesh, Sheikh Hasina has been convicted of serious crimes and offenses against her people during the 2024 protests, and she has been awarded the death penalty. So there are a lot of elements in Bangladesh, especially the NCP, the student leaders, the Jamaat, and other radical factions who are demanding India to extradite her, to hand her over back to Bangladesh so that she can face the death punishment. So the BNP, which of course is trying to cement its political position after winning the elections, is trying to cater to that vote bank. And it could be pressing India to extradite Sheikh Hasina. And this is non negotiable for India because India doesn't abandon its friends. Sheikh Hasina, her family, her father, Sheikh Mujibur Rahman, her party, Awami League, they've always stood with India. India's big mistake was we put all our eggs in one basket. We didn't cultivate better ties with other parties, including the BNP and the other sections. Because see, in geopolitics, you can't be idealistic. Irrespective of who comes to power, you need to develop a skill to cultivate ties with them. If we can work with Taliban in Afghanistan, if we can work with the military junta in Myanmar, why can't we work with BNP or the Jamaat or anyone else who comes to power? That has been one big shortcoming in our foreign policy towards Bangladesh. The next big issue is the politicization of illegal migration issue in the border states, in West Bengal, in Assam, even in Meghalaya and Tripura. The issue of illegal migration is a very sensitive topic. In the past, large scale illegal migration has triggered socio ethnic tensions, demographic changes, and it even triggered insurgency in Assam, Tripura, and even in Meghalaya. But though the scale of illegal migration has gone down, the problem persists across the border. And this issue has been politicized for domestic politics on the Indian side. Recently, Assam West Bengal went in for elections, and I'm sure you must be aware of the political rhetoric surrounding illegal migration. So, after the elections of West Bengal and Assam, the new state governments are working with the central government and the BSF, the border guarding force, and they are pushing back the alleged illegal migrants. And the term being used here is border push-ins, which exactly is not legal and it doesn't follow the due process. Because if you have to send back illegal migrants, first you have to detect, identify them, prove that they are illegal migrants from another country, submit this data to the other nation through diplomatic channels. The other nation should accept them, and then you can deport them through formal channels. So instead of following this route, India is allegedly forcefully pushing back the alleged illegal migrants without giving them a chance to be heard or without following the due process. And there have been few border killings on the India Bangladesh border as well. So this has been a sensitive topic which has been read by Bangladesh as a red line. And that is one major point of friction which could have been affecting the relationship. The other issue is the Ganga Water Sharing Treaty, which is all set to expire. This treaty was signed in 1996 when Sheikh Hasina came to power for the first time. The Ganga water sharing issue had been resolved, including the Faraka barrage issue. Please note, India Bangladesh, we share 54 transboundary rivers. So, naturally, water sharing is a major point of discussion and a key topic between the two countries. But this treaty expires this year in December 2026. Bangladesh was never happy with the Ganga water sharing treaty, especially with regard to Faraka barrage. Bangladesh has alleged that it largely benefits India, it affects the water flow into Bangladesh, and reportedly it results in environmental consequences in Bangladesh as well. So Sheikh Hasina, when she was in power, she would keep the issue aside. She would not make it a point of friction or divide the relationship on these lines. And that is the advantage we had with a pro-India leader like Sheikh Hasina. But now the new government was insisting through back channels that the Ganga water sharing treaty has to be revised and upgraded because it is expiring in December 2026. And there was no clarity provided from the Indian side. The other long pending issue, which is honestly India's fault, is the Teesta water sharing issue, which has been stalled since at least 15 to 16 years. When Prime Minister Manmohan Singh had worked out a deal with Sheikh Hasina, the deal was stalled due to domestic politics, especially political pressure from West Bengal, the pressure of coalition politics, and water being a emotive subject. The issue was heavily politicized, and the central government couldn't go ahead and sign the deal. Later, the Modi government was also held back because of political pressure from West Bengal. So, this failure of India to resolve the Teesta issue, even when Sheikh Hasina was a great friend, even when Sheikh Hasina delivered on all the promises, Sheikh Hasina strengthened border security measures, tackled organized crime, brought down illegal migration, more importantly, destroyed the terror safe havens, and countered the Northeast insurgents. Despite this, India couldn't deliver the Teesta Water Agreement, and this remains a long pending issue. So, all these factors could be deciding, could be the main deciding factor behind why Tariq Rahman chose not to visit India. Now, during this visit to China, there have been some important agreements, deals, projects that have been announced, which have raised alarm in New Delhi. The most important project is the Mongla port project, which India has lost and it has been awarded to China. So, what is the Mongla port project? See, Bangladesh has two major ports, Mongla and Chittagong. Chittagong being the largest and Mongla being the second largest. They are the gateways to Bay of Bengal and the Indian Ocean region. They are the economic lifeline of Bangladesh. In fact, India had a grand ambition to depend on these ports to create alternate access towards Northeast India by interlinking our waterways and riverine networks. So, Mongla Port has seen considerable Indian investments. For example, India had won this project back in 2015 when a MOU was signed between Prime Minister Modi and then Prime Minister Sheikh Hasina, where India was supposed to develop an industrial cluster and corridor right next to Mongla port. And to take this project forward, India had even developed a critical railway link connecting Mongla port with Kulna, which would bring logistical supply chains close to the Indian border, connecting India almost directly with the Mongla port. In 2018, the project to develop an industrial corridor at Mongla port was awarded as well to the Hiranandani group by the Indian government. But unfortunately, the project had been delayed. So now, this key industrial project at Mongla port is being handed over to a Chinese state run company. Now, please understand, this may not just be an economic project or a commercial project. This could have strategic implications. Mongla is situated just 188 kilometers from India's coastline, right next to Kolkata port, right? And given the proximity to India's territorial waters and coastline, there is a propensity of China to use such commercial facilities for military and espionage purposes. China is known to surround and encircle countries, particularly India, in the Indian Ocean, through such strategic investments. China already has a great foothold at Chittagong. It's believed to be a part of China's string of pearls strategy to encircle India. But thanks to the friendly government under Sheikh Hasina, we had managed to regain the influence. India was involved in projects at Chittagong as well. And India had been investing in the Mongla port and the industrial corridor which had been proposed. Now, this project has been taken away from India during Tariq Rahman's visit, and it has been awarded to a Chinese state run company. Along with that, the Teesta water project has been announced, which has come as a shocker. The Teesta water issue is an unresolved dispute, as we discussed, and it's a transboundary river between India and Bangladesh, with implications for both the upper and lower riparian states. Now, all of a sudden, Bangladesh has signed a deal where China will assist Bangladesh in developing a water management project. So, India fears that China could basically poke its nose into this bilateral transboundary river issue, and this could upset India's equations with Bangladesh. The Teesta is a lifeline that originates in the Himalayas in Kanchenjunga Biosphere Reserve in Sikkim, flows down the Siliguri corridor through West Bengal, which is critical for irrigation drinking purposes on the Indian side, and then enters Bangladesh. So, any water management project built with Chinese support and assistance could be detrimental for the issue, indirectly making China a party to the issue, and more importantly, a Chinese presence near the Indian border, that too near the strategic Siliguri, which is India's chicken's neck, which is India's strategic choke point, could be a serious security concern as well. Then, along with that, at Chittagong, a new project has been announced by China and Bangladesh. China will be developing the Chinese Economic and Industrial Zone. China already had a great foothold at Chittagong port, even controlling port operations. And now, China has announced this new deal where Chinese industries, logistics, and warehouse facilities will come up, thus establishing China's dominance at both the ports of Bangladesh, at Mongla and as well as at Chittagong. Given that this is India's backyard, this is our sphere of influence, any Chinese presence and control could be detrimental for Indian influence and interests. And it's not just that. In the past, China has been creating a considerable military presence as well. For example, under the Muhammad Yunus's regime, it was reported that Bangladesh had invited China to develop the Lal Monirhat Air Base, a World War era airbase which had become defunct. And China reportedly is involved in upgrading and reviving the Lal Monirhat Air Base. And see where it is located, just 15 kilometers from the Indian border in the northeast region, hardly around 135 kilometers from the Siliguri corridor. If potentially China could deploy fighter jets, transport planes, or surveillance planes and drones, it will give China a dominating presence to keep a watch on India's northeast and the Siliguri corridor. And also, China has built a massive submarine yard near Chittagong, which is named as BNS Sheikh Hasina, a submarine base that can hold up to 8 large submarines. Bangladeshi Navy hardly has 2 3 submarines. So, what's the point of building additional docking yards? Potentially, the Chinese Navy, the PLA Navy, could utilize the facility as a dual purpose facility, along with the base being used by Bangladeshi Navy for docking submarines. Potentially, the Chinese Navy could also access the facility, directly posing a threat to India in the Bay of Bengal. Now, please remember, India has key security and strategic interests in this region. We have Sriharikota, our space facility of ISRO. We have Vishakhapatnam Naval Base, which is where our nuclear powered submarines are based out of under the INS Arihant class. We have the missile testing range at Dr. APJ Abdul Kalam Island at Balsore in Odisha. We have Andaman Nicobar, where we have a tri service military command and where India is planning a massive infrastructure project. China already has a foothold in Bay of Bengal at Coco Islands of Myanmar, which reportedly Myanmar has leased to China. And according to intelligence agencies, China has set up espionage and surveillance facilities at Coco Islands to keep a watch on India's military, missile, and space activities. So, this remains the biggest concern, that is China encircling India from all sides, particularly via Bangladesh. This could weaken our neighborhood first policy. It could weaken our Act East policy as well. And during Tariq Rahman's visit, China has invited Bangladesh to become a part of the China Myanmar Bangladesh Economic Corridor. See, a few years ago, there was a proposal to set up a connectivity corridor between 4 countries in the region known as the BCIM corridor, Bangladesh, China, India, Myanmar corridor. This was when India China relations were quite friendly and China was not so aggressive a few years ago. But following China's repeated incursions, and as India got closer to US and other countries in the West, the BCIM project had essentially been dropped. India, at least, moved out of this initiative. But China has always been serious about it. As part of Belt and Road Initiative, China, Bangladesh, Myanmar have always been working together. China has set up the CMEC corridor, just like you have the CPEC corridor with Bangladesh that links Pakistan's Gwadar port with Xinjiang province. Similarly, China has worked with Myanmar under CMEC project and developed the strategic Kyokfu port and set up a massive industrial and connectivity link from pipelines to road and rail connectivity, including high speed rail segments, are coming up with power plants and industrial clusters. China is even involved in extracting hydrocarbons from Myanmar's exclusive economic zone in Bay of Bengal. And more importantly, this will give China direct access to Indian Ocean and reduces its dependency on Malacca Strait. Just like China Pakistan Economic Corridor gives China direct access to Arabian Sea and Hormuz Strait and reduces China's dependency on Malacca. Similarly, China can bypass Malacca through Myanmar. It connects China's Yunnan province directly with the Kyokfu port and with Bay of Bengal. Because see, a large part of China's oil imports comes from Indian Ocean, almost 80% of it. And China always worries about the Malacca Strait, which is a choke point. Potentially, US or India could blockade Malacca, very similar to how Iran and US have blockaded Hormuz. And that could cripple the Chinese economy in the context of a war or a conflict. So China has always been trying to bypass Malacca, and China Pakistan corridor and China Myanmar corridor These are the two critical legs of the Belt and Road Initiative, which allows China to bypass Malacca. And now China is inviting Bangladesh as well. And Bangladesh has agreed to be a part of the China Myanmar Bangladesh Economic Corridor. So, this is a new version of the BCIM corridor that was previously proposed. Now that India is out of this initiative, the other three countries are looking to go ahead. So, if China were to step up its investments and further connect the neighbors of India, Bangladesh, and Myanmar, and leverage the facilities to counter India, encircle India, that will become a serious strategic challenge. So, this again adds to the string of pearls theory that China has been trying to encircle India across the Indian Ocean through strategic investments. Even though they look like commercial projects with economic purpose, there might be a dual use application. Be it the Chittagong port in Bangladesh, now the Mongla port and the industrial project at Mongla port, or the Kyokfu port in Myanmar, or the Hambantota and Colombo ports in Sri Lanka. We have seen how Chinese research vessels, which are basically spy vessels, have repeatedly docked at Colombo and Hambantota, reportedly to track India's missile and rocket launches. Or be it the Gwadar port in Pakistan, or be it China's military base at Djibouti near Bab el Mandeb Strait in the Gulf of Aden. China has similar investments across West Asia, from UAE to Oman, and across East Africa, from Somalia to Kenya, Tanzania, Mozambique, and as well as in the Indian Ocean island nations, from Seychelles to Comoros. And it is trying to influence Maldives and Mauritius as well, where it is actively countering Indian influence. So, this is what creates a serious concern and a serious challenge for India. So, what should be the way forward? What should India do? See, India's biggest leverage is the fact that we share the longest border with Bangladesh. Bangladesh can't change its geography overnight. It has a certain dependency on India. The India Bangladesh trade will be the biggest leverage. Under Muhammad Yunus, the trade had largely been suspended. The land border points had been discouraged, and the entry of Bangladeshi goods also had been discouraged by the Indian side. We even denied transshipment access. Bangladesh was using our ports and airports to send its goods to other third countries. We had completely stopped that arrangement. Now, this is one economic leverage that India will have. Along with that, the close cultural links, the historical ties, and as well as the security presence that India creates in the region. That is exactly what India will have to offer to Bangladesh. Not just revival of trade opportunities. We should promise investments. We should offer security. We should work with Bangladesh to satisfy its interests. Resolve some of the immediate points of friction, probably the Teesta water dispute, or revive and upgrade the Ganga water sharing treaty, or tackle the illegal migration issue, tone down the political rhetoric, and stop the border push ins. Work with Bangladesh to sort the border issues and as well as the problem of illegal migration. So, such sensitivity would be required from the Indian side in order to win back Bangladesh. Or else, we are looking at a very difficult period where China could potentially encircle India, gain an upper hand in the strategic Bay of Bengal region. So, that is what I wanted to discuss with you today. So, what do you think of this? What should be the solutions? What can India do? What mistakes has India done? Please let me know in the comment section below. On this note, I bring this discussion to an end. Thanks for watching.